Since the very beginning of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise, platforming has been its main focus, with you having to complete levels by making it to the end of the course using whatever abilities are available to you. One of these is Mario's skill of being able to climb up certain objects and obstacles, to usually progress forward in a stage, but also to find secret hidden spots that aren't usually accessible. Where, in researching this topic, I actually thought it'd be interesting to look at each and everything you can clamber up or grab onto in each and every single game in the series. Here, I'll explain exactly where you can find them, how exactly they work, and how they might change over time as the franchise grew. And oh yeah, before we get started here, my name is Copycat, and if you haven't yet, then please subscribe to my channel, as I'm trying to hit 200k by the summer, and I really think you guys can get me there. The very first mainline game to come out starring a mustachioed hero is Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1985, where the only thing in this one that you can climb on are the vines. These are hidden within certain blocks within certain levels, where when bonked they begin to grow out of them upwards towards the sky. Where when taken, you're transported to a sub-area that's usually just a coin heaven where you can collect a bunch of the golden stuff. However, if you find the hidden one in World 4-2, this takes you to a sub-area that contains a warp zone that allows you to access World 6 to 8. Now, even though these aren't used much in this entry, climbing this specific one can help you complete the game much faster than intended. Next to be released in Western markets is Super Mario Bros. 2 in October of 1988. Containing a bunch of climbable things that we're going to look at that all function pretty much the exact same, starting with the most common in this game, and across the series, in the vine. Here though, these are already fully grown, and you just have the opportunity to go up and down them as a quick transportation system to reach higher up things. At times having enemies on them that can really get in your way, especially if you don't know how to maneuver on them properly yet. Also, this game introduces the ability to quickly slide down climbable things by just pressing down on the controller. Something you technically can do in the first entry, but because they aren't meant to be traversed on in this way, it's never really a big mechanic. Other climbable things that show up that again act the same are the ladders, which are found throughout more of the underground areas, and the chains, which are found mainly in castle levels, but mostly in World 7-2, Wart's Castle. The final of the original NES trilogy, Super Mario Bros. 3, came out for the system in February of 1990. Where, believe it or not, the only climbable thing you can find in this entire entry are vines. These are hidden within blocks just like the original title, leading to either a coin heaven or a secret sub-area that contains some really rare power-ups. The most notable thing I can say about them is that the one in World 2-5 turns a weird orangey color, probably due to the weird palette of the stage itself. Something I'm not sure was meant to happen, but this is a desert world and everything looks dried up, so it possibly could be intentional or just a happy accident. Before we move on, I just want to mention how Super Mario Land for the Game Boy has no places in which Mario can climb or hang on to things in any way, shape, or form. This is probably due to how rudimentary the system is, so it makes sense that this type of mechanic would just be excluded. Next up is the Super Nintendo Entertainment System's Super Mario World that came out in August of 1991, which introduces two new climbable objects that help you traverse within the weird dinosaur land, beginning with the fences. These are primarily found within castle stages where you can climb onto them and maneuver up, down, left, or right on them, using these things to cross over certain voids and avoid certain enemies that you don't want to face off against. While on here, you can also punch, which will not only defeat any Koopa that might be climbing on the other side, but also trigger the revolving doors so that you're now on the other side of the gate and can move around in this weird different dimension. This specific mechanic is unfortunately underutilized in this entry, as turning backwards like that doesn't do anything positive or negative to the gameplay. The other new addition are the ropes. They're attached to a motor which are fixed to a track, being able to hold on to said rope and use it as a sort of vehicle to make it through the stage. Again, this usually shows up over voids, so it's sort of risky to use, but not necessary in a few places. So just be careful, especially when there's other enemies around, or even chainsaws, which is kinda scary. Also, this game has vines that come out of blocks, which is normal, but I just want to note that our dino buddy Yoshi cannot climb up them, having to ditch him in a few instances where you need to climb them, which is a bit unfortunate. The sequel to Super Mario Land, titled The 6 Golden Coins, also came out for the Game Boy, but here in 1993. Not really having anything Mario can grab or hold on to, but having something that can grab Mario and hold on to him. This is the crane that's mainly found in the aptly named Crane Course of the Mario Zone. where jumping into these things and getting held will allow you to cross dangerous hazards that otherwise would kill you, leading to a loss of life. Okay, maybe I'm being a bit dramatic because honestly you can just jump over these things and platform on top of them, so you don't really need to use them at all. Also, Mario's not technically grabbing / climbing these things, so their inclusion is a bit of a stretch to begin with, but I might make a video focusing on these types of obstacles / features in the future, so I just wanted to showcase this one here. The sequel to Super Mario World would also be released on the SNES, and would act more like a prequel titled Yoshi's Island, where following the Yoshi rule, our Dino Buddy cannot technically climb anything, therefore there's no climbable things from this game to talk about. This rule is followed throughout the entire series except for in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which I'll talk about obviously at the end of this video. The very first game to come out based within the 3D realm is Super Mario 64 for the N64, introducing the ability for Mario to grab onto ledges and pull himself up, which is really helpful as it allows you to reach places that otherwise would be really hard to. In this one, you can hang basically indefinitely without falling off. I also want to look at poles, where in this one there are several different types that all pretty much act the same. You can climb up them or slide down them, also having the ability to jump off them either to reach a higher up area or another pole. Most of these are usually staked into the ground or hanging from the ceiling in a stationary manner. But there can be a few moving ones like these ones in Dire Dire Docks, which can be really hard to traverse on due to the game's camera, which really adds to the challenge. Also, this entry is the first one where you can grab onto trees and climb up and down them, where most of them don't really lead to much and are more just there as a thing that brings life to the courses. However, grabbing this specific one in Womp's Fortress awakens the owl, where you then can be grabbed by its talons and soar up into the air, dropping yourself on a bunch of goodies when you're ready. Finally, this game has wire netting that you can hang underneath of and maneuver back and forth on, being important in a few spots as your only way to pass over voids. These aren't used nearly enough and really only factor in the pyramid of shifting sandland. But again, Nintendo was still figuring out how to make games in this realm, and they really did the best that they could. Another game that's based within a 3D environment is Super Mario Sunshine for the GameCube, where once again, you can grab and hang onto ledges to pull yourself upwards to get to certain spots. But here, there's a big twist that sets this title apart from the others. That's because in this entry, Mario only has 15 seconds to stay on the edge he's currently hanging onto, as after that he begins to get tired and will eventually fall off, which can be detrimental in a few spots. Not only can you pull yourself up from solid objects, but also on the new wire obstacle, which acts sort of like a springboard launching you up into the air, where when hanging on you can also shimmy back and forth, which is an interesting detail. In this one, wire netting and fencing is expanded greatly, as now you have to interact with them slightly differently, like with the gates, which move on a track when hit, but eventually will fall off when it gets to its goal, and the flippable panels, that can be moved if you spray them with the flood. These aren't used much, but they are used in some really cool ways when they do show up. Also, this game does have trees, but this time they're much more in the palm variety, where a few can be climbed usually to get the fruit off the top of them, or to use their foliage as a platform. Lastly, I want to mention the classic poles, which don't show up regularly as much in this title as I thought they would, but they do pop up in some very interesting places, so I just want to show each one and where you can find them. The only real normal one can be found in the Shell's secret mission of Noki Bay. There are also these moving hook ones that can be found in Rico Harbor. And lastly, the different flagpoles that can be found, not only in a few of the Il Piantissimo races, but also some are staples of a few levels, with the most special being the one found in the Delfino airstrip. This has a weird flag on top of it that must represent the island / country, I'm not sure. Also, if you go to the very top, you just fall off, as the handstand animation wasn't in this game, which is a bit of a letdown. Nintendo will return the series to its 2D roots with the release of new Super Mario Bros. For the dual screen system, where I guess I'll start with a few we've already looked at in the Pole and the Vine. Two things that act exactly as you'd expect, so I'll just leave it at that. Also, there are wire fences in this one that you can clamber on that also have flip panels acting super similarly to what we've seen in Super Mario World, although you might have to jump between a few moving ones, which will throw you off a bit. There are also a few swinging pole-like things that either move on a track that you can hold onto to traverse forward, or swing back and forth on, waiting for the right time to jump off of them. You can also hold onto and shimmy on a few things, including a rope which appears in a few castle / tower stages, and cliffs, that actually show up quite a bit, but mostly in spots in World 6, where you can either use your hands or your feet and move carefully across the mountainside. Next up is the space-based Super Mario Galaxy for the Wii entry, where the 3D game trend continues of allowing Mario to grab onto ledges and pull himself upwards, also returning to the indefinite hanging status, which I think is better anyways, as it gives players time to breathe. There are pulls in this game that look super regular and act super regular, but no other climbable things we've seen before, which is odd, but at least this entry is unique. My favorite addition to this one has to be the Bandandalions, which propel you upwards in the stage, but in a really funny way when you grab onto them and shake your Wiimote. These are really satisfying to use as it properly incorporates the motion controls, putting it on par with the Launch Star, although those ones really are great. There's also the Sprouting Vines, which you can do the same thing on, but here you don't get flinged, and instead you travel along it as it grows, which is also very fun to do. There are also swings that include the doubly attached ones that just swing back and forth, and the single one that you can swing in all directions on, but unfortunately it doesn't work as well as I hoped. Finally, I want to look at the different things you can climb on as the bee, which mainly are the honeycomb walls of the Honey Hive Galaxy. At the top of this tall tower is the Queen Bee, which you also can climb on as the bee to collect the pieces of the launch star that launches you to the star. The bee really is a weird power-up that still doesn't make sense to me, as I prefer the Banjo-Kazooie transformation over this, but that's just me. The second installment of the new Super Mario Bros. Sub-series came out for the Wii in 2009, having a few returning ones and a few newer additions, starting here with the cliffs that act basically the same as in the last entry. The only change here is now that there are also rock walls paired with them, making this really feel like you're on an expedition and not just something you want to speed through. Fences also appear in this entry and tend to move way more than usual, with swingable gates present as well, but their use seems to be getting less and less as the games go on. There's vines in this one that you can normally just climb up, as well as ones that you can swing on. Really reminded me of the Donkey Kong games, as that's one of the main ways that Ape gets around. There's also a swingable chain link version that's only found in World 8-6 in one specific spot, which is kind of weird. Other than that, there's just the pool, which acts like, well, a pole and only shows up in the World 3 Ghost House. And there's also ladders that act just like ladders, but they are made of rope and they sway in the strong wind, so you have to wait until things die down to go up them. These rope ladders are only found in World 2-4, and I can't say they're memorable at all as I completely forgot about them. The second Space Ace entry would be released for the Wii, being aptly titled Super Mario Galaxy 2. Having pretty much all of the same climbable things as the first one, but adds in one thing I didn't even realize wasn't present in trees. Yep, the normal old things that appear in most 3D games, but randomly didn't show up in the first. Here just acting like you'd think, so there's really not much else to say about them. Nintendo would perfectly blend aspects of the series' 2D and 3D realms with the release of Super Mario 3D Land for the 3DS, which is a title that really keeps things simple and returns to the roots of what really made these games great. So the only things you can really climb on are poles and trees. Poles are actually used a lot in this title, as there's many instances that you have to use them to jump to other spots and vertical spaces, where trees are used just how you think, as they're basically just there as decorations. The third installment of the new Super Mario Bros. Sub-series is randomly given the title of being the second when it's really not, and came out for the 3DS in 2012, with only one new thing that's added that you can climb on being the webs. Things, I guess, supposedly left by spotters that you can use to reach higher up areas in World 3 too. These things can be climbed on, but do disappear after about a second of being on them, meaning you have to usually move quickly and jump between them efficiently to really get the goodies. The final installment of the new Super Mario Bros. Sub-series first came out for the Wii U, and later would be re-released in deluxe version on the Switch. Not adding any new things at all to climb on, so I'm not really going to waste your time in explaining each one. Nintendo would expand on its 3D Land ideas with the release of Super Mario 3D World for the Wii U and later for the Switch, having a certain power-up that allows you to literally climb on any surface in the Super Belt, which turns you into Cat Mario. This climbing action is only for a short period of time, but allows you to get up to some pretty high heights much faster than regular jumping, also giving you a few other abilities that can help you traverse and attack. What's really cool is that this power-up allows you to climb up the gold pole for the first time in the franchise. A really cool idea that helps you gold flag each stage way easier than usual. The only real thing that you can climb slash hang from slash whatever this video is about is the trapeze, which is a brightly colored swing thing that you can hang on and jump off of. These come up in the tricky trapeze theater stage, being World 5-2, which is sort of carnival themed, so the inclusion of these makes sense while also giving you a fun thing to do. My favorite entry in this series is the absolutely massive Super Mario Odyssey Nintendo Switch entry. Of course, having the classic poles that help you traverse through the kingdoms, as there is a lot of verticality included in exploring them. There are tons of different types of these to find all over each kingdom in the game, but they all function pretty much the same, so I can't go through each one or else we'll be here all day. Also, trees make a return here and can be climbed on in many places in the game, including the regular ones of the Mushroom Kingdom, the palm trees of the Sand Kingdom and the Lost Kingdoms, the ones of the Deep Dark Woods of the Wooded Kingdom, and a few in the Park of the Metro Kingdom. Beanstalks also show up here, but they are gigantified, being planted via acorn, where you then can climb up them to find a secret sub-area. This is a strange sight, but worked well in this game, as a small skinny beanstalk would have also looked wrong. Also, this game has something called horizontal bars that you can swing on, but there's a twist, as some of them retract into the walls, meaning you have to time your jumps between them or risk falling. These feel really smooth, and with the added height that you can get with Cappy, create a great experience every time you use them. Lastly, I want to look at something that's technically climbable if you're the capturable Pokio in the soft walls, as you can peck your beak into the walls and fling yourself upwards on them to get to higher up heights. This is a big feature of Bowser's Kingdom, needing to use them to find some really hidden secrets on top of rooftops that normally would not be easy to get to. I'm including Bowser's Fury in this video, as it actually adds in a brand new thing that you can climb up on and use in the fling poles, letting you launch yourself pretty far throughout Lake Lapcat. These generally appear on top of the lighthouses that open up once you collect a certain amount of cat shines in that area, again as a way to propel yourself getting to the next part of the game. Also, the trees in this one are catified, as some have cute little ears and some are the shape of the Super Belt, which of course is the power-up that turns you into Cat Mario, so that is notable. The last game of this video, and the most recent to come out in the franchise, is Super Mario Bros. Wonder for the Nintendo Switch, having a thing that you can actually climb onto to reach other areas in the Propeller Flower. This is a thing that you have to grab onto that takes you to a sort of coin heaven area. Although, I guess you don't exactly climb on them, so I'm just including them because I want to. Also, they appear in the game's overworlds as a way to get from one spot to the next, usually to something higher up like an airship stage or a cloud level. I get it's a bit odd to add an overworld feature, but I thought it was interesting to see as it's a part of the game that isn't talked about enough. A Wonder Flower effect that allows you to climb up walls and on ceilings of the Wubba Room stage is the Wubba, the sort of gooey, sticky, blobby thing that can traverse basically anywhere. There are some cool puzzles involving this weird thing that are some of the most fun parts of the game, so if you haven't played this entry, then you're missing out on moments like this, as it's definitely worth the money. Lastly, I just want to mention a few badges that can help you climb up walls in ways you were never able to before, with the first being the pretty obviously named Wall Climb badge. If you jump up against a wall and then jump again, you'll sort of bounce climb up it in a weird way, which will then allow you to reach ledges that you normally can't. There's also the Grappling Vine badge that allows you to throw out a long vine in front of you, which can grab onto any wall it comes in contact with, where if you did it right, then you can use it to traverse up ledges, which also can be helpful. Oh yeah, I forgot about the really funny foe that you can climb on and hop off of for a brief second in the Tally, which are sort of pitcher plants with vines hanging off them that are found mainly in Taili's Toxic Pond. This is a really unique foe that's not really like the others in the game, and even in the series, with maybe the Uproot being similar, but they grow and don't exactly climb, so that doesn't count. This is also the first game where Yoshi can climb things, something I really can't get used to as it just looks odd, and I'm not used to Yoshi having hands that act that way, so yeah, let me know in the comments if you think the same way. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. I really hope you did enjoy this one. If you did, please leave a like, and of course subscribe to my channel, as I want to hit 200k by the summer, and I know you guys can get me there. Hope you guys all have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!